Murodjon Akhmadaliev versus Kevin Gonzalez. 12 rounds in the junior featherweight division. This is on the undercard of Jesse Bam Rodriguez and Sonny Edwards, the co-main event, I believe. Let's get into it. Let's start with Akhmadaliev. 11 wins, 1 loss, 8 wins by way of knockout. Akhmadaliev has been riding the wave, the high tide, since he came into the professional setting in 2020. He made his presence felt and put himself on the map, so to speak, when he fought and beat Daniel Roman and took both of his belts from him. He fought a great fight. Very exciting fight from both men. Both men left everything in the ring. Akhmadaliev is a smart fighter. He knows how to keep the distance. He's a good body puncher. He's vicious. He's got good power. He can hit you from different angles. He sits down on his punches. He's just a very smart, calculated fighter. Isn't always the greatest starter, but really warms up throughout the fight as the fight goes on. Against Roman, man, he found different ways how to land his punches. He came through his guard, he came around his high guard and really just found the right spots. I felt like the more the fight went on, the more comfortable Akhmadaliev started to become. And I thought he separated himself as the fight went on. He was pushing Roman back, landing the left hand. He was throwing punches and flurries and taking risks. Because he was taking those risks, there were times when he was coming in and firing, 3, 4, 5, 6-piece combinations while he's lunging forward. He would get clipped once or twice, but he would develop so much momentum forward and throwing so many punches that his shots would offset what Roman was able to do. Roman had a lot of success when he was going to the body, and he was nicely timing Akhmadaliev with uppercuts as well. But I thought Akhmadaliev, for a greater portion of the fight, was the aggressor and threw more. And I think those two combinations was the reason why he was able to get the win. It was a bit of a shocking win to many people because Akhmadaliev to that point had only fought 8 times, 8 fights. And in your 8 fights, you get a title shot and you upset the champion and you become the new champion. The pressure is always on for the champion. And so now it was a different ball game for him. He followed that performance up by beating Ronnie Rios a couple fights later. His body work was vicious and ridiculous in that fight, man. I really like the way when Akhmadaliev commits to certain parts of the body. When he does commit there, man, he's intentional about it. He put Ronnie Rios down in the last round. And Akhmadaliev did get caught with a bunch of shots, counter punches here in between in the rounds, right? But when those moments were there, Ronnie Rios did not capitalize fully on those opportunities, and he allowed Akhmadaliev to recover and get back into the fight, man. Akhmadaliev, I thought he didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't he hurt himself in that fight too? Like for the second half, wasn't he fighting with like one arm? Something happened with his hand. I can't remember fully. Correct me if I'm wrong, but assuming that my memory is correct, the fact that he was able to stop a guy with one arm is impressive. That means he pushed through that pain, right? He pushed through that pain and found a way to get the stoppage and defend his title. That's what it is when you're a champion. Nobody cares about the excuses that you may have. If you have an opportunity to close out the show and you can close out the show, man, as a champion, you got to close out the show. Akhmadaliev, mentally strong. He closed out the show and he was battling an injury. In his most recent fight, he fought Marlon Tapales. Man, Tapales and his team, they both came ready to fight. They both were well prepared. They both had a great game plan, and you could tell he was ready for that moment. Tapales, to me, won that fight in the early part of that fight, man. He came out, he was patient, didn't overcommit. He took what was open to him. Akhmadaliev gave him too much respect to me, right? He let Tapales slip in and slip out on his terms, landed nice uppercuts, overhand lefts, and was just started much faster. And he got settled much quicker than Akhmadaliev did. Akhmadaliev didn't really pick up his tempo and his pace of the fight till like the 6th round. And once he got on that front foot, that's when the fight began for him. He had Tapales hurt a little bit in that 7th round. But credit to Tapales because he did not panic. He stuck to his game plan and got himself out of trouble strategically. Got off the ropes, fired a shot back, stepped back, reset his feet, and kept the slight distance. There were times throughout that fight, well, through all of Akhmadaliev's fight, where he's lunging forward, right? Like trying to land a big shot when he's maybe a little bit frustrated and gets a little bit desperate, trying to get back the momentum. And every time that he was doing that to Tapales, man, he would at least get a shot or two in. He would counter and at least get a counter or two in. And that was a great thing for him to do because he knew it was going to come. He knew the opening was going to be there at some point, right? But can you seize those moments? Can you take advantage of those moments? And for the most part, Tapales was able to do that. But I thought Akhmadaliev came on strong from round 10 to 12, and he went to the body a lot more. Now, Tapales got himself in trouble a couple times in the latter half of the fight. There was a fight where he completely got caught off guard, and Akhmadaliev hit him with a counter right hand that he almost fell to the canvas, but his energy and momentum kept him up. But it was almost a knockdown. If he would have got a knockdown, things would have changed and he would have lost that fight. Akhmadaliev always comes on strong towards the end of the fight. And he usually builds that momentum because he's going to the body a lot more. And that really helps slow down Tapales a little bit. But he didn't do enough in the early part. He didn't do as much as Tapales did, and Tapales was able to come away with the win. And Akhmadaliev suffered his first loss and lost his belts. So we'll see how he responds this weekend because you never know how a fighter is going to respond after a loss. So we'll see what happens. Let's talk about his opponent, Kevin Gonzalez. 26 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw, 13 wins by way of knockout. I wasn't too familiar with Gonzalez until recently. Right. I've only really seen him live about a couple times. And I mean a couple, 2 or 3 times. But I did see his last 2 fights. Gonzalez is a warrior, man. Like if you like Mexican fighters, man, Mexican style of boxing, that come forward, heart, will, volume punches, work rate. You're going to like Gonzalez. That's what he is. He's high action, aggressive, explosive punches, and he generates good power from in close. He knows how to fight from in close. Like this is a guy that can break you down. He throws good body punches. He's slick, got a subtle uppercut. He comes in great shape, great conditioning. He can fight from round 1 to round 12 to 1 run. However long his fight goes, he can be consistent from round 1 all the way to the end, man. When he fought Rivera, they were both throwing heavy, close punches from in close. It was like one of those war type of fights, man. Rivera was landing good jabs early, but Gonzalez was taking the fight to him. And, sometimes when you're fighting from in close, you have a way of smothering your work. Gonzalez, man, he wasn't doing that, right? Like he knows how to maneuver from in close. He wasn't smothering his work. He knows how to strategically maneuver in the ring from in close and get his shots off, right? Both men got hit cleanly that fight. Him and Rivera got hit cleanly, right? There was a lot of action, and Gonzalez is just a solid, technical, consistent fighter through and through. Rivera was just outworked that night to me. He was landing good shots against Gonzalez, but he wasn't as consistent with the volume and combinations as Gonzalez was. Gonzalez, man, you watch his fight. I mean, he's a tough cat, man. He just keeps coming forward, and he just keeps throwing. Right. And the volume, we know how much volume can make a difference, and we know how much that can do. I mean, we saw what happened with Espinoza and Ramirez. The volume was a big part of why Espinoza was able to get that win. Judges like volume. They like aggression. They like that stuff. So always something to keep in mind. In his most recent fight, he fought Jose San Martin, and he fought a great fight, man. I thought it was a more complete fight, right? He was more patient, used his jab. The left hand was strong to the head, to the body. He was whipping that thing consistently, pacing up San Martin early in the fight, man. His conditioning was great, but I thought he did a much better job of the volume in how he was throwing. Right? The energy that he was putting into his punches and into the close range fight, he distributed a little bit better. I thought he did a better job of pacing himself, keeping the pressure. He smothered San Martin and kind of took away some of the offensive work that San Martin was trying to do, right? Leaning on him just enough where he can get his shots in, body shots, left, right, just doing enough to make sure that he was the one who the refs and the judges were going to see. Felt like San Martin couldn't really get a whole lot of consistent work done throughout the fight. But I was very impressed with Gonzalez's last performance, man. I thought he fought a great fight and showed signs of maturity as well. This is a great step up fight for him, in my opinion, man. An underrated fight. And if Gonzalez is going to take that next step, this is a great way to start it. A great name to have on your resume, because Akhmadaliev gets a lot of respect. He's a very great fighter in his own rights. Opportunity is here. It is now. Can Gonzalez seize that moment? So who wins? This is going to be a close fight to me. I haven't looked at the odds, but I'm assuming that Akhmadaliev is the favorite. He's probably the more well-known fighter, even though Gonzalez has more fights on his resume. I think this fight has upset potential all over it, man. Gonzalez is a tough night for any cat. We saw Akhmadaliev isn't the fastest starter, and his slow start caused him against Tapales. Gonzalez starts much quicker, and he's slick inside the ring, man, and he's calculated with his aggression. But will it be enough, right? Like, can he smother Akhmadaliev enough? Can he smother Akhmadaliev, who needs space in order to really sit and land his punches? Can he evade? Can he endure the storm and Akhmadaliev turns on the aggression and comes on that front forward? Akhmadaliev is a great competitor, and his body work when he does target it is vicious. This is a fight that I think could go either way, and I wouldn't be surprised at either outcome. And so for me, man, my mind is saying go with Akhmadaliev, right? But my heart is saying, man, that will and that competitor and that hunger and that will to that determination, you go with Gonzalez. Akhmadaliev could come right out and stop Gonzalez in the first 5-6 rounds. He could come in and dominate this fight. Gonzalez could break down Akhmadaliev and wear down his will and come away with the win. Right now, I'm leaning with the underdog, man. I think Gonzalez comes into this fight and makes a name for himself even more. And I think his work rate and his volume is going to be a problem for Akhmadaliev. And I think Gonzalez comes in and he starts early, gets confident early, gets in his zone early, and starts to impose his will early. And Akhmadaliev comes on strong, as he always does in those last 2-3 rounds. Whoever is more determined, whoever has more will, and whoever is more of the volume puncher, I think is going to take this one. I'm leaning with Gonzalez to win this fight by decision. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a couple ways you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Any amount goes towards the growth of this channel. It will be greatly, greatly appreciated. Shout out to everybody that continues to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate each of you. Shout out to all of the members. Shout out to everybody that has donated in some capacity. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. So with all that being said, man, if you've been watching the video, this time do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.